Alrighty, welcome everyone. Thanks very much for having me here. And a quick explicit advisory. Occasionally, a little bit of Anglo-Saxon language will slip from my lips. I'm not a very sweary person, but if you've got little ones in the background, you might want to put your earbuds in because you don't have to explain those words later. Secondly, I don't have a snazzy. My company does. It's called Get Found, Get Hired because it does that. It helps you get found and get hired. So there you go. And Jai, Mandarin. Wow. Okay. What's the Chinese proverb? Be careful what you wish for. Here we go. If you are a six-figure sales professional who's out of work and or looking for your next career move, then yeah, okay, we're all in the right place. Thank God for that. Your problem right now is that you don't have a job, or more importantly, quite frankly, you don't have a process in which to get your next, which is measurable and has any guarantee of success. Right, you're just reduced to flinging your CV at vacancies online and making a mind-numbing level of applications, which is not a lot of fun. I get that. The brain, your brain, hates uncertainty. If you've studied any kind of psychology, you'll know that. Uncertainty manifests itself as stress. You don't know when you're going to get back to work. You don't know when your next job is going to be offered and if it's going to be any good. Would it just be a means to an end, or worse, a backward step? You're worried about your personal finances unraveling. I get that. They may have started to unravel already, and you're scared that you could be out of work for a long time. Or if you're of a certain age in the sales profession, and I know that ageism is illegal in the UK, but let's not kid ourselves. It happens, all right? The thought has occurred to you that that's your last sales job. You're done, all right? And an unknown career change is now going to be forced upon you. I get it, all right? I understand that, because I've helped people like you, I've helped six-figure sales professionals get their ideal job. So if you recognize any of that, put it in the comments about how you feel. I'd be interested to see the kind of language you're using to describe your state of mind right now. So put that in the chat, please, under the stage label. Wouldn't it be better instead, here we go. Wouldn't it be better if your ideal job, whatever job that is, yeah, not just any old job, but your ideal one, came and found you faster, for more money, without you even having to sell yourselves? Sounds like moon on a stick, doesn't it? You're like, come on, Johnny, faster for more money without me even selling myself. Pull the other one. I get that. All right. That's the most common response I get when I help people out. It's actually easier and quicker for you to get found and hired for your ideal job than it is for you to find and apply for a less ideal job and then try and get that. All right. And that's because of three structural shifts in the hiring market, which I'm going to give you now, okay? So there's no sales pitch coming, by the way. I'm in marketing, so I kind of sound like I'm winding up to a sales pitch. There's none coming. There's nothing to click, all right? Most of you are all a similar age to me because you're senior people. You don't get to be on six figures and be a junior at the same time. And we are the last generation to grow up without the internet, all right? So if you're under about the age of about 40, the internet's been around your entire working life. Once you get above 40, back in the day, we can tell a tale of when there was no online. When if we wanted to buy something, we'd have to go down to the shops because that's all there was. There was no online. We didn't have enough information about what we wanted to buy, so we'd have to go inside the shop, and then we'd have to speak to a sales assistant. And however benign and professional that process was, it was a sales process, yeah? We were talking to them, getting the information we needed about whatever it was we wanted to buy. And at the end of that process, because we were stood in front of them, they'd try and sell us something, which is kind of what we went in there for anyway, isn't it? So no big deal. However, if you zoom forward to the 21st century, post-internet era, which is where we are now, and if you wanted to browse for stuff that you didn't have full information on, you don't schlep down to the high street anymore, do you? No, you just jump straight online. And that's because all the information that was exclusive to a salesperson, previously, that we were dependent on in order to make our decisions, has now been transferred to the internet, where we can access it all for ourselves. We don't need a salesperson anymore, do we? Uh-oh, bad news. Anybody know any sales professionals? This is more about the retail land I'm talking about. Obviously, big B2B sales definitely needs you guys. But whatever it is you were buying down the high street, let's just pick on some examples, TVs, holidays, doesn't really matter what. All those questions that you have, whatever it was you were buying, you could say, TVs, how heavy a TV can I hang on a UK stud wall? You can just get an answer to that from Google. You don't have to speak to a salesperson. What's the difference between LED and LCD? There'll be a PDF on that. You can just download it and have it sent to your email address. Yeah. If it was holidays, what's the sunny side of the hotel for my evening gin and tonic? Just get that from the customer reviews. You don't have to speak to a travel agent anymore. So you just don't need a salesperson to start making decisions. So, let's just talking about, to job seeking, which is, I know, what you come on to talk to find out about today, but it's important you understand these three structural shifts, okay? So let's stick with TVs for a minute, and then we'll apply it all. It's important that you understand these shifts. So if you found a TV you like, yeah, it's got all the whistles and bells, it's internet connectivity, it's wafer thin, whatever it is you want, happy days. You now got to decide where you're going to get it from. That's when those marketing messages come into play, yeah? You get those adverts down the side of the screen, maybe you get in your inbox, and they say something like this: click and collect, watch the big game this afternoon. You know what? If that marketing message appeals to you, you're likely to be an Argos customer, because that's what that kind of message is saying. Or it might say 2 years warranty instead of the standard 12 months, in which case you're probably going to end up buying it from PC World Currys, yeah? Currys PC World. It might say exclusive model to us. Actually, it's bollocks, isn't it? It's exactly the same TV you're after. All they've done is just change the plastic trim around the screen. So yeah, right, fine. Technically speaking, it's exclusive. Plus, they'll deliver it in a big green lorry, park it outside your house all morning for the neighbours to see while they install the thing for you. Yeah, it turned out you're a crashing middle-class snob and you're a John Lewis customer. Fine. I'm not here to judge. So you decide not just what you want to buy, but also where you're going to get it from. And depending on what you're actually shopping for, it might not be a TV or a holiday. It could be anything. You can ping your credit card details on the screen, and the whole thing just turns up in the post. Now, if you bore with me for that entire story, this is the point of telling you that, okay? Listening now. At no stage during that entire transaction did a salesperson even know you existed. Had no idea you were online, no idea you were looking, no idea you were about to buy something. They had absolutely no ability to influence that transaction whatsoever. Didn't even know you existed. In fact, it's no longer a sales process. It's no longer a sales world. It's a buying process, and it belongs to the buyer. It's a buyer's world. Unless the buyer, you and me, when we're out there looking for something, TV or holiday, unless we make a move, nothing happens, because the salespeople don't even know we're in the market. So now let's apply all that to job seeking, which is where it's going to start to get super, super interesting. Those three structural shifts. Okay, first thing then, pay attention then, big three shifts for you guys. It's going to make an impact on how you get your next job. First of all, the hiring manager, they're the buyer in our story. Yeah, they're the ones with the need. They're the ones that are going to go looking. You're selling yourself. Hi, I'm great. Here's my CV. Hire me. Possibly you've got a recruiter doing that for you as well. The hiring manager is not used to having to run the gauntlet of a sales pitch anymore. Right? They just don't do that. If they're in the mood to buy, they'll buy. All right. And until then, would you stop hassling them with your bloody emails saying, I'm great, CV attached, covering email, blah, fucking blah. All right. They don't want it. It's just clogging up their inbox with something they didn't ask for, don't want, and is a waste of their time. There is a process at play here, and the process in the hiring manager is a buying one. And unless you're allowing the hiring manager to engage in a buying process, which is what they do for everything else, including TVs and holidays, then you're kind of swimming against the tide, which quite frankly is, and you might be experiencing a little bit of that right now, chucking your CV out there and getting tumbleweed back, all right? So allow the buying process to take place. Position yourself to be part of the buying process. That's step one, or structural shift one. Second one, super big one this. If I was a hiring manager, I no longer have to advertise the vacancy. Yeah, hiring managers can start their buying process up without declaring the vacancy at all. They could look online. They could look on a CV board. They could look on LinkedIn. They could speak to their network offline, asking who they recommend, and they can do all that without you even knowing they had a vacancy. And they get to see several candidates, and if they like one of them, they'll hire them. And then they announce to the world that they've made a hire. We've made a senior sales hire. Joe Bloggs has got the job. You're like, what do you mean you hired someone? I didn't even know you had a vacancy. What the hell's going on there? It's called the hidden jobs market. It's not hidden, all right? The sales vacancy didn't sneak off behind the bike sheds for a crafty fag so you couldn't see it. No. It's a misnomer. It's just called the unadvertised jobs market. That's all that means. And the buying process is behind a screen. You can't see the hiring manager do it. So you didn't even know there was a vacancy to sell yourself to, all right? And that can be about half your market. And the more senior the vacancy, the bigger the share of the market that is, particularly right now when there's a whole raft of job seekers out there. Hiring managers are getting very quickly used to the idea not to advertise the vacancy because their inboxes are being crushed with the volume of applications. Instead, they're going to go looking, all right? So if you want to increase the size of the market that you're accessing, then it's only going to be through being bought, because you can't sell yourself to a market that you can't see, right? That's the second structural shift. And the third thing, and you're going to love this because you're all in sales, and it's a thing called buyer-seller integrity. So super huge, this. If you're involved in a transaction and there is a salesperson involved as well, if the salesperson thinks that what they've got matches your needs about 75% or better, then they'll take a swing at selling it to you, because that's what they do for a living, right? They're a professional salesperson. That's how they make their money. I have no problem with that at all whatsoever. However, remove the salesperson from the equation, as is the case online, where they didn't even know you existed. Remember, we talked about TVs and holidays, and the salesperson didn't even know you're out there looking. Then buyers do not get excited by a 75% match. You're like, kind of does what I'm after, but it's not exactly what I wanted. I'm going to keep looking, says the buyer. Actually, buyers get excited nearer a 95% match. That's when that ooh sound appears, like, ooh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. How much is that? And that's when the buying conversation comes to the surface. And there is a disconnect between those two numbers, isn't there? 75% match to needs when a salesperson's in charge of it, and 95% match to needs when a buyer's in charge of it. Interesting. And that's explained very simply. Salespeople are burdened, you're all sales professionals, are burdened with the responsibility of making money out of your transactions. So, of course, you want to lower the bar as much as you can reasonably. And I think without being ridiculous, if you try to sell something to somebody that was only a 50% match to their needs, they just laugh at you. But at 75% match to needs, some customers start to open their wallet, and that's when sales tends to kick up a gear. However, on the buying side, buyers are not burdened with the responsibility to make money out of the transaction. Quite the reverse, actually. They're trying to solve a problem. So they have an incentive to make the integrity of that solution as high as possible. And again, without being ridiculous, because I think if you were buying something, you said, no, I'm not spending any money unless it's 100% perfect, you could wait a while for that solution. That probably doesn't exist, right? But at a 95% match to needs, there's a reasonable expectation that that solution does exist. And that's what buyers are happy to part with money for. So if you want your ideal job, and you want it faster, then you've got to present a buying process, all right? Because that's what the hiring managers used to using pretty much everything in that. So present a buying process, use it to access a bigger market. And when the buyer buys, and this is the really important bit, right? This is what's the benefit to you is, if the first two things weren't benefit enough, when the buyer buys, they are more discerning than when a seller sells. So if you can position yourself properly to get bought, then the hiring manager is only going to contact you and send you a message and ask you to interview for a role if they perceive you to be a very high match to the role, around 95%, which is quite frankly when your interviews get a whole lot bloody easier. Stop selling yourself to stuff that's hard and start getting bought for stuff that's easy. Okay, so there you go. 3 structural shifts: process, unadvertised job market, and buyer-seller integrity. I only know all that stuff because I've had like 15 years as an award-winning executive search consultant, and then I did 5 years in digital marketing. I also won some awards for that, and I'm a trained copywriter. So basically, I know how to push people's buttons online, all right? I've helped over 200 six-figure executives in the last 24 months through the Get Found, Get Hired program, which I'm not pitching for today. If you want to know about that, just direct message me on LinkedIn or something. I also help several hundred people every 7 or 8 weeks through a free 5-day job-seeking accelerator program. I'm not pitching for that today either. The thing I am going to do, because it is say to you, if you didn't want to check me out, go onto LinkedIn. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of recommendations. They're all from very senior people just like you. You can see that, oh yeah, he actually does help people like me. 3 things you can do, okay? I'm just going to rip a link off here because I'm going to chuck that into the chat. I'm going to give you something of gift. So I would say follow this hashtag, Walker Talks. Let's see if I can't even spell my own name. There we go. Talks. That hashtag there, if you follow that on LinkedIn, all of my live shows, I do one on Monday at 10, one on Thursdays at 12. They're live, and I just give away free, basically consultancy, right? There's never anything to buy in them things. We don't do webinar pitches and bullshit like that. That's just free gift stuff. If you follow this hashtag on LinkedIn, which is the name of my business, then you get all the non-live content. That's all the there's PDFs, there's videos, there's all sorts of random stuff there. 2 years worth of it. I've given away some absolute gems over those 2 years. Go dive in. It's all on LinkedIn. It's all available. Help yourself. And
perfect.
That there is a free ebook, 50 pages of pure gold distilled from the Untitled Get Found, Get Hired program. Just as a little thank you to James and Adam for inviting me on here today to help you all out. Help yourselves to it. There you go.